You slid your sketchbook a little further across the desk, hoping the teacher wouldn't notice you weren't paying attention again. You weren't drawing flowers or random doodles today. You were sketching him. Not because he was the most popular boy in school, not because every girl whispered his name like it was a secret spell, but because John Jungkook had one expression that fascinated you, a quiet, almost lonely look he wore whenever he thought no one was watching. You looked up. He was staring out the window again, chin resting on his knuckles, completely unaware that someone 5 desks away was memorizing every detail of his profile. Your pencil paused. Why does he look like he's somewhere else? Why does he look sad? The teacher suddenly called his name. John Jungkook? The answer? Jungkook blinked, looked at the board, and answered flawlessly, without even trying. The class admired him. You understood him, or at least you thought you did. Because while everyone else saw a confident boy who could charm the world, you saw the invisible walls he hid behind. Your best friend nudged you. Stop trying him. If he sees that, you'll have to move to another planet. You quickly shut your sketchbook, heart jumping. It's not like he'll ever look my way. But Jungkook did look your way. Right then, for a second, your breath stopped. Not because of his eyes, but because his expression looked almost like a silent question, like he was wondering, why are you looking at me like you know me? You quickly looked away. You didn't know him, you just wished you did. You were stacking returned books into a cardboard box behind the library when you suddenly heard laughter drifting from just around the corner. You recognized the voices instantly, Jungkook and his friends, including Jimin and the ever annoying Mira. And you paused for a moment, telling yourself not to eavesdrop, but a single mention of your name made your body freeze. Mira giggled loudly, nudging Jungkook. Are you sure you don't like wine? She seems to really, really like you. You held your breath, curious what he would answer. Jungkook gave a casual laugh, the kind a person uses when they have no idea they're stepping on someone's heart. Wine is nice, but she's not really my type. Your grip around the box tightened. Mira raised a brow. Not your type? Why though? She's cute. Jungkook shrugged lightly, not mocking, just careless. I mean, she's sweet and everything, but I don't really feel anything. I like girls who are more outgoing, someone who grabs attention when she walks, you know. Wine is quite a bit boring for me, I guess. She's just not the kind of girl I would ever think of dating. The words weren't loud or cruel, but they cut clean and deep because they were spoken so casually as if you were insignificant enough to be dismissed in one short breath. Jimin, who had been leaning against the wall, quietly looked uncomfortable. His eyes flicked around as if he sensed something was wrong. Jungkook, you shouldn't say things like that. You never know who might hear. Jungkook shrugged again, still unaware. I'm just being honest. You couldn't stand there another second. You stepped back quietly, with your heart feeling heavier than the entire box of books in your arms, and your chest burning with an emotion so sharp it almost made breathing difficult. Without a sound, you walked away, but before you turned the corner, you met eyes with Jimin. His expression fell immediately, guilt and concern replacing his usual cheerful look. He opened his mouth to say something, maybe to call you, maybe to stop you, but your feet were already moving faster, carrying you away from all the laughter you once adored. The sunlight spilled through the classroom windows, making the dust particles in the air look like tiny floating stars. Students in the room were laughing, talking loudly, and exchanging gossip as usual. But you sat quietly at your desk, your eyes focused on the lined pages of your notebook, even though your pen hadn't written a single word. You were still replaying those casual sentences Jungkook said yesterday, the way he dismissed you as if you were just another invisible face in the crowd, The hurt was still fresh, but what hurt even more was the embarrassment of having feelings for someone who never even bothered to see you properly. The chair next to you scrapped and Jungkook sat down, like he always did, but he didn't immediately speak like he used to. Instead, he waited for you to look at him, expecting the usual shy greeting you always gave him. Except today, none came. Jungkook tilted his head slightly. Ryan, he said, sounding a bit surprised when you didn't respond. He tried again, lightly tapping the edge of your desk. You didn't say good morning today. His voice seemed playful on the surface, but there was a hint of confusion underneath. Jungkook wasn't used to being ignored, especially not by you. Still, you kept your eyes on the notebook, determined not to let him see how much you were hurting. When you didn't answer even after a few seconds, Jungkook leaned a little closer and lowered his voice. Are you mad about something? Your hand paused and you took a breath before responding, keeping your voice steady and calm. No, I'm just busy. He frowned immediately because he knew you well enough to realize that you had just told the first lie you had ever told him. Busy doing what? He asked as if he needed a reason to be reassured that everything was normal. You looked at him properly for the first time since yesterday, but your eyes had changed. No excitement, no admiration, no soft sparkle when you saw him. Your expression was neutral, distant, almost unreadable. I don't have to explain myself to you. Your words weren't rude, but they carried a quiet finality. Jungkook blinked, the confusion in his eyes deepening. What's wrong with you? Did someone say something to you? Yes, you thought. You did. But you didn't let the truth escape your lips. You simply looked away again. Class began soon after, but Jungkook couldn't focus on the lesson at all. He kept glancing at you during every silent minute, waiting for your usual smiles, waiting for you to accidentally catch him staring so he could show off a little. But none of that happened. Instead, you looked as if nothing about him mattered anymore. That feeling, that sudden emptiness, unsettled him more than he expected. He walked straight out of the school building with your lunchbox held in both hands, trying to avoid Jungkook's eyes, trying to avoid everything that reminded you of how foolish your heart had been. Without thinking too much, your feet led you to the backside of the sports building, where you usually went only when you wanted to avoid people. You sat down on one of the tables, taking in a slow breath as the cold shadow wrapped around you like a safe blanket. Just when you opened your lunch, someone sat beside you, not too close, not too far. You didn't need to look to know who it was. It was Jimin. He remained quiet for a full minute, giving you time to breathe, time to prepare to speak if you wanted to. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft, like he was making sure he wouldn't hurt you further. You don't have to hide away, he said gently. People will always talk, but that shouldn't take away your smile. You swallowed, feeling your throat tighten, because you knew he heard everything yesterday, and he had kept your pain a secret instead of making it worse. I'm not hiding, you replied, staring down at your lunchbox. I just want some peace. Jimin hummed quietly. And do you get peace from sitting alone and hurting quietly? Your hands paused and your heart felt heavy again. Jimin, I'm fine, really. You tried to say, but your voice betrayed you, turning softer and more fragile. Jimin didn't push you, he didn't force you to share. He simply nodded, accepting the lie you weren't ready to break. If you ever feel like you can't handle it alone, just know that I'm here. You don't need to run away from everybody. You finally turned toward him, surprised by the sincerity in his eyes. You don't even know me that well. You whispered. He smiled, a warm, comforting smile that made your chest ache in a gentler way. I would like to change that. What neither of you noticed was Jungkook standing at a distance, holding his lunch tray and staring at the scene. He had followed you without even realizing his own feet were chasing you. He thought maybe you were sick, maybe you needed help, maybe he would find out what was wrong. But then he saw you smiling faintly at Jimin, a smile Jungkook had thought was reserved only for him, and something unfamiliar twisted painfully in his chest. Jealousy? sharp and sudden. He didn't know why he suddenly wanted your attention, why he wasn't liking the fact that you weren't seen around him. All he understood in that moment was one simple truth. He missed your attention and now someone else was getting it. The weather was strangely beautiful next morning, bright sunlight, soft breeze, yet nothing felt light inside you. You woke up determined not to let your emotions control you anymore. If Jungkook didn't see your worth, then you had to stop sacrificing your feelings for someone who never asked. So today you came to school with a new rule for yourself. No more staring at Jungkook, no more waiting for him to notice, no more falling deeper. You walked into the classroom with quiet confidence. The moment Jungkook saw you walk past him without a glance, his brows pulled together in an expression that looked almost offended. From the moment you stopped giving him attention, he was restless. Jungkook leaned back in his chair, trying to act casual even though his eyes kept tracing your movements. You took out your books, ignored the urge to check if he was looking, and placed your headphones in your ears, not playing anything, just wanting some distance. Jungkook cleared his throat but got no reaction. He tapped your desk lightly, still nothing. He slowly leaned closer, speaking near your ear. Okay, seriously, what's wrong with you? Did someone say something? You calmly removed one headphone and looked straight at him. Nothing is wrong, I'm just focusing on myself. He stared at you for a moment, visibly thrown off by how direct and steady your voice was. Since when do you need headphones to focus? Since I stopped depending on distractions. You slipped the headphone back in, ending the conversation. Jungkook sat back, frustration slowly turning into worry. Jimin, sitting a few seats away, noticed the silent tension and smiled to himself. He didn't interfere. He trusted you to handle your own pain, but he silently kept watch like a protective shield if things went too far. You sat on the bleachers, taking out your math notes because apparently heartbreak didn't excuse you from failing algebra. As you copied formulas, Jimin approached with two juice boxes in hand. He offered you one without saying a word. You accepted with a smile that Jimin treasured more than you realized. You look less sad today. I'm trying, you replied, shrugging. And you are doing good. His voice carried warmth, the kind that made your heart feel seen, not judged. You were about to respond, but someone else had already arrived. Jungkook. His shadow fell over both of you. You and Jimin looked up at the same time. He frowned. What are you two doing here? Sitting, talking, breathing, usual human things. Jungkook rolled his eyes. I meant, why are you avoiding me, Ryan? Before you could answer, Jimin stood up, stepping slightly in front of you as if to shield you. If she doesn't want to talk to you, Jungkook, respect that. Jungkook's eyes narrowed. Since when did you start speaking for her? And since when did you start caring if she avoids you or not? Silence fell, your heart dropped because the truth was finally spoken aloud. Jungkook glanced at you, his irritation melting into confusion and guilt he couldn't hide anymore. I just want to know what I did. You shook your head lightly, not strong enough yet to confront his words. You didn't do anything, I just learned to stop expecting. That sentence hit him harder than every rejection he had ever received. You stood up, walking away with Jimin beside you, and Jungkook watched, feeling something heavy settle painfully in his chest. He wasn't used to losing attention, especially yours. The class was forming groups and discussing roles. You were busy organizing the list when the class representative called your name. Wayne, you are in charge of decorations. You'll be working with Kai, okay? You looked up and saw a tall, charming boy smiling kindly at you, a new transfer student who had already become popular because he was unbelievably good looking. Kai walked over, offering his hand. I've noticed you around. I'm looking forward to working together. He shook his hand politely. You didn't notice Jungkook staring from across the room, but Jimin did. And he smirked quietly. Kai leaned closer, pointing at the paper. Maybe we can do something unique with the lights. I would like to hear your ideas. You nodded, speaking with more confidence than you felt. That sounds good. We can sketch a layout tomorrow. Jungkook clenched his jaw. Who was this guy? Why was he smiling at you like that? Why were you smiling back? Before he even realized, his feet were already moving toward you. He stopped right beside your desk, staring at Kai like he was a challenge. Wine doesn't like crowded or loud work. She gets stressed easily. You cut him off, keeping your tone neutral. I'll manage. You don't have to worry about me. Jungkook looked like he had been punched. I wasn't worrying, I was just. Then you don't need to interfere. For the first time, Jungkook was speechless. Kai glanced between the two of you, realizing there was history, and possibly a complicated one. It was after school hours when you walked out carrying a stack of papers. You stumbled slightly, but before they could fall, someone caught them for you. Careful, you are doing a lot today. You looked up to thank him, and that exact moment Jungkook walked out and saw the scene. Kai holding your things, you smiling softly, you talking comfortably without any hesitation. Something inside Jungkook cracked wider. He called your name louder than intended. Fine. You turn around slowly. Kai was still standing close, still holding the papers. Jungkook stared at you, really stared, and for the first time you saw something you never expected in his eyes. Fear. Fear of losing you. He walked closer, his voice not loud anymore, but trembling slightly with emotions he didn't understand. Can we talk, please? You looked at him quietly. Your heart still cared too much, but you were tired of being the only one who cared. About what, Jungkook? He opened his mouth, then closed it again, because he didn't actually know how to explain the ache inside him. So he said the only thing he could. I don't like it when you ignore me. You stared at him with a calm expression that hid all the chaos inside. And I don't like being taken for granted, but we don't always get what we like. You took back your papers from Kai gently, thanked him, and walked over the bus. Stop, leaving Jungkook frozen in place with the first true crack in his heart. Jimin, who had been watching from a distance, whispered to himself, Good, let him feel what she felt.